Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Maggie, and welcome to the M&M Debrief, the podcast where Mike and Maggie discuss the top stories in politics and sports and try to make sense of the headlines. Mike, do we have any follow-ups from the last episode?
I have a couple of follow-ups. Let's see. First of all, I mentioned that Zelensky in Ukraine had fired one of his top generals, or his Minister of Defense, actually, Fedorov.
Uh-huh.
He was very popular, and there was a lot of protesting and an uprising. So Fedorov was offered to come back to the government by Zelensky, said he would bring him back in some different role, but Fedorov turned him down. He said he wanted to go back
Fedorov
as
turned him down?
Yeah, he said he wanted to go back as a defense minister only. So I think Zelensky realized he kind of made a mistake and tried to
Yeah.
get him back in, but he'd already put new guys into the job, and so I'm not sure exactly what it means. I think this Fedorov guy should be part of the Ukrainian team because he's a lot more forward thinking when it comes to drones and stuff. But I can't quite tell how pissed off he is, what he thinks. But anyway, he's still out, but he was offered a role back, and he turned it down. So
Well, I didn't I see that Ukrainians were in the streets protesting Fedorov's ouster?
yes, that was the main reason why he's I don't quite know his age, but I think he's a little less corrupt than that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't like to support Ukraine because of the corruption, and they also have a Nazi sympathetic past going back to World War II. So Ukrainians aren't beloved as you would think, but yeah, but Fedorov is, I think, a little less corrupt and younger and more forward-thinking when it comes to war fighting with the drones, especially. He's allowed the people to innovate a little more, and I don't think he's skimming as much of the money or anything like that. So yes, he is liked, and it was the protests that got Zelensky to try to get him back in. So we'll see what happens there. And then I made a couple of vocabulary miscues. I just want to straighten them up. So speaking of Ukraine, I did describe their internal process as obtuse, and I should have used abstruse instead.
I don't think I've ever heard of that word, honey. Sorry.
Yeah, obtuse means
I get obtuse, but
dim. They may be obtuse as well, but di- dim-witted, I guess, about the famous line from The Shawshank Redemption, you're finding me obtuse. Anyway, but I meant to say abstruse, abstruse, which it means complicated and mysterious or complicated, and so it's probably both. And then I've been calling the water plants in the Gulf desalinization. That's the word I've been using, but it's actually desalination. I've been putting an extra syllable in there. They are desalination plants. It's probably going to take me 2 more episodes to get this right. So just bear with me. So I want to do a vocabulary update there.
well, it sounded right to me when you were saying it, but yeah.
I've heard other people on other podcasts make the same mistake, but anyway, you get my point. The plant that takes salt water and turns it into fresh water. So, alrighty. Anyway, let's get down to it. The war is getting hot and heavy. We are at the most active, fierce part in this whole war in the whole 5 months since it started here. Yeah, military assets are getting moved around. American air bases are getting bombed all over the place. Jordan they continue to get bombed in Qatar, Bahrain. The El Udeid Air Force Base is kind of abandoned, basically. And then there's a couple other Air Force bases that are basically abandoned. America is moving its assets around and putting a lot of stuff into Israel because they've got the Golden Dome. Apparently, all these other Air Force bases weren't worthy of the Golden Dome, but Israel is worthy of the Golden Dome. So so much so that there's so many aircraft at the Tel Aviv airport that the Israelis are now yelling at the Americans, "Get these aircraft off our airport. We can't land the commercial planes anymore because we don't have any room." And so Americans started saying, "Hey, dude, we're fighting this war for you. You better let us put our airplanes
Better
here."
make room for us.
And then so all the people griping at the Americans for their planes, word ended up getting back to Netanyahu, and Netanyahu put the hammer down and said, "Look, they're going to park their planes here, so shut up." So that's what I think is going to end up happening. It's going to be Tel Aviv or Israel is going to be the Alamo for American forces. So everything's going to get bombed to smithereens, and helicopters, refueling, air jets. But everything's either going to be in Israel or on an aircraft carrier. Basically, the aircraft carriers have moved into the Gulf of Oman. They were out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And
Mm.
now we are moved them into the Gulf of Oman, which is right outside the Strait of Hormuz. And it sure appears to many people that we are going to do a ground invasion. Assets are getting moved around. They're doing staging raids. They'll do a little mini raid into an island just to see how the Iranians react. And the Marines and the 82nd Airborne they're getting moved around in such a way that it sure does appear that we're gonna invade, boots on the ground, so to speak, which would be an incredibly stupid thing to do. But I guess we have to get a symbolic win. I think Trump just wants to get, like, if we can just get some Marines on some little podunk coastal city on the southern part of Iran, at least we could say, hey, we've invaded. We're here. Unfortunately, they'll make them sitting ducks for the drone attacks, but. So it sure looks like it to a lot of people that we're going to invade and then try to make a push onto the Strait of Hormuz and actually
It's
try
just,
try try to take it over.
yeah, it just seems to be so ill matched. We have a very modern, military army
Hmm.
on the sidelines waiting to go in.
Hmm.
They have these huge, planes and aircraft carriers and everything, bombs. And then you have this, thousands of year old army made up of not only trained army men, but you have a population of about 50 million men, some of which are everyone is going to fight the Americans. And if they fight them with rocks and swords and knives, they will do so. It's just not an evenly matched, fight in my mind, which means I think America is very much at risk of losing and being crushed. And I think Trump is digging a hole and he needs to stop digging. This is not going to end well, in my mind, just because the Iranians don't care and they will do whatever it takes to defeat America and defeat Trump. They just have less to lose.
Yeah, when the rule of holes, when you're in a hole, stop digging. I think that's genetically impossible for Donald Trump. He just whatever happened to him when he was being raised. I'm going to go back to Fred Trump. Whatever he whatever he did to Donald Trump to make him this, I will not lose. Him and Roy Cohn have both shaped Donald Trump into what he is. He just will do whatever it takes to not look like a loser. Your opinion is pretty much shared by a vast majority of the intelligence analysts and the intelligence community. We will not win this war. Even if we nuke them, we won't
Right.
win. Mm. I mean, that's what everybody is. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are now really being worried about a nuclear, and it'll probably be Israel. But first, and then us. Even if we drop a nuclear bomb on Tehran, we still will not win.
No.
You know, and if you want to know the tenacity and the fierceness of the Iranian or the Persians, whatever, just look at the history of the Iran-Iraq War. Both sides lost over 1 million soldiers, and they were sending 12-year-old kids into the breach. Hey, and
Exactly.
they would put headbands on them saying, "I'm going to meet Allah," and then 12-year-old kids. I mean, so they will not.
Right.
They will not. And so,
Trump cannot, no bombs can defeat that. I
right. I mean,
wish the stupid Congress would have voted down any money, any more money.
yeah, and then nothing's gonna change until it starts getting painful for us here in America. And so when the loyalty to Trump is overridden by the loyalty to their constituents and the people stand up and say, stop this stuff or we're gonna vote you out and get someone in it, until the pain is felt here.
Mm,
Then it's not to us. It's still just a TV show, and so
right.
yeah,
Although the majority of Americans are against the war,
they're against it, but it's still not painful. I mean,
and nobody's listening to the
yeah.
people,
I mean, my
and they're
day to day
still
life.
going
Yeah.
forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we are talking right now, and I'm jumping ahead, forgive me, about the fact that they're trying to already minimize the reporting on the number of fatalities from the war from 18 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are going to be hundreds, thousands potentially killed if we go put troops on the land there, and it's going to get bad very quickly. I think the only way out of this war is for Trump to resign or have the 25th Amendment put against him or whatever. He just needs to go. And then I think that would create a change that will allow someone who's maybe a little more sane in the administration to say,
Mm.
let's leave. This was a bad idea. Goodbye. Good luck. See ya.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but we would be way better if JD Vance were president.
Yeah. And he was at least
Which
against it. He's not an
I don't
idiot.
yeah, he used to be a normal guy, and then he decided to hitch his wagon to
Get
Trump,
weird.
but so if Trump were gone, maybe he'd go back to being a normal guy, but,
Yeah. Okay. I'm done on
yeah,
that.
nobody
Anyway.
is nobody is listening. You hit the nail right on the head there. They're doing whatever their donors are saying, AIPAC and other the defense contractors, what they're saying. Those guys are making bank, Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and all these
God.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Bonuses. I
Yeah,
see.
and the information that's not getting out is astronomical. What Israel has a monster crackdown on
Yeah.
information getting out, and we
They're
are too.
killing journalists.
So much so, and they're just so anal about all the reporting. Like four people died in Jordan when they bombed the base in Jordan, and they were put on the list of military deaths, but guess what? They pulled them off a few days later
Yeah.
because apparently we were still inside of a ceasefire. So they're
Technically,
quick
as if
they're
that
quib
makes a difference. Since
yeah
since
they're
when is that the new rule? Who made up that
yeah
rule?
yeah
If
they're
ceasefire,
quibbling over yeah.
if you're part of the army and you get killed by a bomb, it doesn't count? Who came up with that?
Right, yeah. So here they're quibbling over four people as if it's better. And by the way, it's way higher than 14 or 18. By the way, there's hundreds of wounded people in soldiers in Germany at Ramstead. So.
Right.
Yeah, so they're quibbling over four people. No, that wasn't a military death. That was, whatever. And just,
Such BS. Yeah, just
yep, yep.
ridiculousness.
So moving on here, I guess. So the U.S. is
Yeah.
now flying air missions out of RAF Ford, which is an Air Force base in the UK and England. Now that they have a new prime minister, he took about a hot minute to allow missions to be flown out of England. So Iran has put that Air Force base on their target list. I don't think I don't think they can reach England from Iran. But it's now they've declared it as a target, kind of like all the stuff in the Gulf states, that are
Yeah.
targets. I don't think they'll be able to hit it, but you never know.
I wonder what kind of deal was made behind the scenes between Trump and
Hmm.
Burnham
Yeah,
because like you
yeah,
said, it was a
yeah,
hot minute. The guy had barely warmed up the seat under his butt as the new prime minister, and already the first thing he does is say, "Yeah, US, you can fly out of our country."
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's something to control the media or they got lobbyists in England too, just like we do. So, uh, yeah. Let's see what else we got. Oh, real one. I wanted to make sure one other item that proves or is a indicator that we're going to go to war is that they're starting to send a lot of medics to Germany. They send 150 to 200 more medics to the hospital in Germany. So
That's not
I think
good.
they're anticipating casualties. I wanted to at least take a minute and talk about the financial part of this now. So I don't know if I mentioned it in the last episode, but the Bab el Mandeb Strait is now closed, which is the strait on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula. The Russian port of Novorossiysk, which is one of the largest exporting ports on the planet, that's now closed. Which basically took the Strait of Hormuz, the volume that's coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, and maybe increased it by 50%. So now instead of 20% of the world's oil being cut off, now we're up to 35. We might be pushing 40% of the oil is getting cut off. If you hear anything about a place called Fujairah, which is a port on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz, on the outside of it, if you hear anything about that being taken down, then it's going to get even worse. The strategic petroleum reserve is getting drained by the day. It's starting to get down to once it gets down to about 100 million barrels, then that's basically the bottom. Because in order to get that 100 million barrels out, they have pumping water, and this stuff is stored in salt mines. And then now you've got salt water in there, and it's going to structurally collapse.
Is this gonna be like the reflecting pool all over again?
Yes, like the reflecting pool on steroids. Yes,
Oh God,
absolutely. Everything Donald Trump touches dies. He's like the opposite of
he's
King
just
Midas.
a destroyer.
Yeah, what would be the opposite of King Midas?
Honestly,
So anyway, I just wanted to point out that there are more and more avenues of oil getting cut off here. So it's just a matter of time here.
it's not looking good, honey.
Yeah, and I gotta think about the Canadians here on the domestic side, but
Okay.
and okay, so anyway, that's kind of where everything is on that. I just while we're talking about international stuff, I did want to at least mention in India, there's this cockroach movement. I don't know if you've heard. This is basically massive protests that are starting to jump up against the government. I think it started with some issues with medical tests being leaked. Like people got the answers to the medical exam. They got a big medical exam for being a doctor. I think some of that stuff got leaked, and then that kind of triggered a series of events where these lower class citizens in India are fighting back against the government. They call themselves the Cockroaches. So you can imply what that means. They're lower class folks and trying to fight back, and
They
they did
call
get some.
themselves this,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it started online, but they did get somebody to resign. One of the top ministers, I think it's the guy with the medical exam stuff. He ended up resigning a couple days ago, or yesterday, or a couple days ago. So there's monstrous protests going on in India. I just wanted to talk about something other than the war for a minute.
Yeah, no, it's, refreshing.
Re-
So,
Refreshing to talk about cockroaches. Yes, it's refreshing to
other
talk about cockroaches.
countries'
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
You're talking about, though, the huge caste system in India, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you may think about, England, and you have the posh people at the top, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
the workers and laborers, and the caste system in India is far more rigid, and you don't get to move. When people
Yeah.
find out where you're from, your caste, you're done. You have no choice, you have no options. There was no way, like in America,
Mm.
to be able to do better and rise up so it's telling, and I think to your point, it should be watched. The fact that they are rising up and they're protesting and they are becoming a power, I think it's very interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what that happens there.
Yeah, there's a guy, John Kiriakou, who I follow a lot. He's a CIA, he's ex-CIA. He's the guy who revealed the Abu Ghraib stuff that we were doing, and he ended up spending time in prison. He's a big podcaster now. He was saying when he was in India one time, he had a driver that drove him around for like 6 weeks, and he wanted to take the guy to lunch, and they wouldn't
Mhm.
let him in. They wouldn't let him in the restaurant at the hotel, and then they went to another restaurant, and they wouldn't let him into the restaurant. And so they had to set up a table outside the restaurant. I mean, it's horrid there. The worst part, or the bad part, is a lot of Indian people are now coming to America, and if they find out, and so the caste system is getting brought to America, because if
Oh, they're exporting it. Great.
one Indian immigrant finds out that the other Indian immigrant is from the lower caste, they start fucking with them or screwing with them. This is in America. So
Yeah.
that is just horrid, and I don't know if we have any Indian listeners out there, but yeah, I don't know what can be done about that. But anyway, the cockroaches are trying to fight back, I guess. So
Good for them.
all right, you want to get on to domestic?
Domestic.
I'm a little light on domestic here, but I let me talk about the Canadians. I mentioned that
Mm,
various avenues of
tariffs.
oil are being, yeah, well, tariffs too,
Mm.
but various avenues of oil are getting cut off between the Russian port and the Bab el Mandeb. We get a lot of our oil, our sour oil for diesel and jet fuel from Canada, and I'm starting to see more prime ministers, or what would they be, the provinces. The governors of the provinces in Canada have a lot more power than, they're kind of like a state governor, but they have a lot more power. Like I think it's Doug Ford. He's the prime minister of Ottawa. He has a lot of power, being the
Uh-huh.
almost equal to the president, almost equal to Carney. So, and these guys are starting to make more noise about directly fighting back against America, and they're talking about cutting off our oil, the oil that they send to us, because we get a lot of oil from Canada, Mexico,
Right.
and Venezuela. And if Canada decides to get pissed off and cut off our oil, then we are really screwed. But that is that's really going to hurt us. So
Right.
the governor of British Columbia is saying that we should directly fight back. That's kind of what they're saying. It's like, let's just not sit and take it anymore. And
Thank you.
Carney's trying to be more savvy about it and set up these new supply chains and stuff. But these other guys are going, screw that, man. Let's just cut them off and see how they like
Right.
it. They
Right.
could.
Well,
Canada could
right.
really shut us down if they got pissed, really
Right.
pissed to do that.
Is
You know,
Canadian oil, is it the sweet or the sour? Is it the
That's the sour stuff. Yeah, that's the sour stuff. Yeah, that's the stuff
okay,
that
so
sour stuff.
diesel.
Yeah, the
Diesel, which
sour
is
stuff go
needed to run the trucks on our roads to
tr
get
tr
goods and services from one place to another. So it's kinda
exactly.
critical, right?
Exactly. That's why we're less affected by what's going on in the Gulf because we get most of our sour stuff locally, I guess, for Canada or a little
Uh,
bit from Venezuela, Mexico, and a little bit from Venezuela.
right.
So if we, I didn't think it was possible, but to say the word angry Canadian, I don't know if I've ever seen I don't know if I've ever seen an angry Canadian, but they're starting to get pissed. Maybe it'll all blow over and settle down or something, but the prime ministers of these provinces are starting to want to take direct action. So we'll see
Well, I
if
don't
it actually
blame
happens.
them. Any individual can only take so much bullshit
Right,
from
right,
somebody.
right.
But I do appreciate Carney trying to say, be planful and go, "Great, we can refuse to sell our oil to
But
America, but we
but
still need to sell it.
we still
So
need to
help
sell to
us buy it,
somebody, right?
China." Yeah,
Right, right. We still need to sell to somebody, right? Exactly.
right.
So we'll see if Canadians settle down. And like one thing is that Trump just put a tariff on hockey sticks coming into
I
America,
know.
and I think
Really?
I think that
It
might have tripped him off.
it's just so emblematic, really? Hockey sticks from Canada. Okay.
Really, they got everybody knows they got the best hockey sticks. I mean, we lived in Minnesota for a while, and my son played hockey, so I know I have a
What's actually
familiar,
a thing? Okay.
yeah, I have familiarity with
I
hockey sticks.
I
Yes.
didn't realize there could be such a difference in hockey sticks. Okay.
I'm telling you, and you gotta watch these hockey players, man. They're very superstitious about their stuff. So don't get me going on skates. All right. All right. Anyway, speaking of Minnesota, Vance Bolter, the guy who murdered Melissa Hartman and her husband last. Anyway, he did take a plea deal. He's got 2 life sentences plus 40 years. So if he dies twice, he still has to serve another 40 years. So anyway, I don't know. Justice got done, I guess. I don't know how can someone be that angry or what they actually think they're gonna accomplish. I don't know, but yeah, I was personally stunned by this because I've been in Melissa Hortman's house. I used to live in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, and her son and my son played on a couple of sports teams together. She threw a couple of birthday parties for her son, who is now he's the same age as my son. He's in his 30s now. But I've actually been in the Hortman home for a party, and so I was kind of
Nice people.
shook by lovely. When she was first starting to run for office, she was walking around our neighborhood, knocking on doors. I know at the time, I was leaning a little conservative, so I didn't really. I told her, "Well, you're probably wasting your time with me, and I probably won't vote for you. But good luck." I liked her and stuff. She was perfectly fine and rose up to the ranks there in the Minnesota House or Minnesota's legislature. So, and did some good for a bunch of people. So,
Yeah.
yep. All right. Anyway, we've got speaking of.
Foreclosures.
Oh, I've got foreclosures. Yeah, I was gonna go to Mamdani, but yeah, look, foreclosures are kicking up 21% increase in foreclosures in 2026. So that ain't good.
Wow.
That ain't good. So just the expenses, inflation are starting to add up. Maybe they're doing strategic foreclosures where they're just going, F this. I'll save my money for a year and a half, and then maybe I'll be okay after that. But anyway, foreclosures going up is bad. I think it's Texas or the South and Southwest are actually hit harder than New England and the Midwest. But if you look at some of the
That's
maps,
that's Trump territory, isn't it?
yeah, and I've heard a few times that Florida is also there's certain cities in Florida that have extreme amount of houses on the market for sale, and a lot of them are, speaking of Canada, a lot of them are Canadian snowbirds that had a home, actually bought a home in Florida, and now they want to get rid of it and go buy their summer home or their winter home somewhere else, I guess, probably down in Central America or something. Yeah, I think so. Florida and Texas, I think, are going to get hit the hardest with this, and it's going to affect the whole country, but a little more to the south. And so
Well, it just
that's
shows you, and
not good.
hard times, people can kind of weather it for a while, high prices and whatnot. But this is just going on for too long now, and now you're beginning to see the impacts. And this is unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this is the beginning of a recession. It has to be a leading indicator of a recession, wouldn't you say?
Well, this might be a deep dive, but normal people like you and me, we've been in a recession for a long time, and it's like the country is divided over the haves and the have-nots, and normal people have been in a recession for a long time. The minimum wage has not gone up in what 25 years or something. So if you want to look at the numbers of the whole economy, that's one thing, but the economy is split up over different. Speaking of caste system, you got the 1%, you've got the bottom 20%, you got the middle class, which is getting eroded. So there's plenty of parts of the country that have been in a recession for years. But since you look on the financial channels and all you look at is the stock market, you would think, oh, we're doing fine. But no,
Right.
the average man on the street has been in a recession for 20 years. And things are, and this all goes back to the supply side economics, which has got to be the watershed stupid decision in the last 40 years. And at the time, starting in 1933, from when the New Deal got put into 1981 when Ronald Reagan got elected, we increased the middle class from 20% of the workforce to 65%. 65% of the country was in the middle class by 1981, thanks to the New Deal. And then
Uh-huh.
starting with supply side economics and Reaganomics, we've systematically dismantled that over the last 40 years, and now we're starting to see the waves are starting to crash into a tsunami here, and now we're seeing the fruits of our labor, so to speak, are so. Yeah, so it
Right.
looks, if you just look at the numbers, it probably looks okay, just economic growth and all this stuff. But guess what? It's all AI crap. It's all, the tech bros are making all their billions, and the rest of us are
Right.
just sitting here. We got to eat it,
We're looking
so
for the breadcrumbs from the table.
yeah, oh, Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, will you please give us a data center, Right, yeah, we're already in 85% of the country's been in a recession for 15 years, so anyway, but if you complain, then you're just a loser. Oh, screw you, so. And anyway, enough of that. Let me see. Mamdani, the mayor of New York, was threatening or publicly saying that apparently Benjamin Netanyahu is going to come to New York City in September, and people start asking him, well, he's got a warrant on him from the ICC, that would be the International Criminal Court.
Mhm.
He's got an arrest warrant out after him, and I don't know if he brought it up or people started asking him, "Oh, you're going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu?" And so it was kind of a thing for a while. I'm talking to my legal team, see if we can enforce the International Criminal Court laws and stuff. And finally came back and said, "No, I don't have the authority to arrest him, but
But if I
we
did, I would.
we should arrest him. Donald Trump should arrest him." So I think he got his point across, and so I thought it was fairly savvy, and everybody's up in arms about it.
Well, it kind of reminded everybody that Netanyahu's a crook, and he is a violent, almost authoritarian leader in his own right, and he deserves to be held accountable for all the bloodshed that he's caused in the Gaza and elsewhere. And so, yeah, good for him. Good for Mamdani.
Yeah, I really like the guy, and I like seeing who gets mad about him, what people say about him, and who gets angry about him. So, like for example, there was a TikToker, an Iranian woman, and she's in favor of the Shah being put back in place. She's like from the Iranian expatriate community, and she's making fun of Mamdani because some of the bikes don't work in New York City. It's like, just fix the bikes. She's trying to make him look bad because, these people are in favor of what Israel is doing with Iran because they want to get back into the royalty of Iran, so the people who are attacking him are kind of funny. But let me see. More and more states now are putting camping bans on people. You got so many homeless people. Although this isn't just, this is all over the place. People are just camping out in public parks and stuff.
We have
And
that in Chicago.
yeah, we
Yeah.
got plenty. We got plenty of that in Chicago, and you drive down Lakeshore Drive, and you see just tents all over the place in these parks. And more states are putting bans on this. You can't be camping out in the public parks and public areas. I don't know about Illinois. Illinois is pretty blue. but more and more states are starting to implement this. So if you're, a homeless advocate on the left, you're saying, well, you can't make it illegal to be homeless. You essentially say, well, you're making it illegal to be homeless. And so I guess I can see that. But on the other hand, it's unsightly. These are public parks for everybody, and they should be able to enjoy them. So why don't we implement some sort of home? Well, I know why we don't do it, because all the money goes to war. But you think they would try to get some buildings and have these people, live somewhere where actually in a building instead of
Yeah, but not in my backyard, so to speak. Nobody wants
yeah.
it. But
Yeah. And
you
then
think
you
there'd be
talk.
a way to accommodate it? I mean, we can put men on the moon. We should be able to figure this out.
Yeah. Well, according to a lot of people, we didn't put a people on the moon, but that's a whole nother deep dive. No, did you hear Lauren Boebert came out yesterday and she goes, I think it was yesterday. She goes, yeah, we didn't put a man on the moon. It was all done in a lot, an Amazon warehouse. And I go, honey, Amazon didn't
There was no
exist.
Amazon
There
back
was no Amazon in 1969, honey. So anyway, more states are trying to clamp down on tents in public parks in various states.
Okay.
Let me see. Cyclospora is now in 9 states. That probably should have been a follow-up. But Cyclospora is
Mhm.
growing, expanding. So much so that Taco Bell, yes, I think it was yesterday, I should have gone to lunch at Taco Bell yesterday. They have a combination of a taco and a burrito. I don't know what they call it, but they were going to offer it without lettuce for $1. Here, you can have this one item with no lettuce for $1. They're trying to do a PR campaign to get people to keep going to Taco Bell. So it was kind of funny. But it's starting to spread. We'll see if
Tacorito?
Taco. I don't know what it's called, but
I'm
all
making it up.
right. Yeah, you're making it up. It does have a specific name. I don't know. It's just
Okay.
cheese and some meat and some sauce, I guess, and a tortilla. I don't know, whatever. All right. Anyway, hon, I
So
think that's all.
sorry, just to clarify, so they still have not controlled the
Doesn't
spread
seem
of this parasite.
right. Seems like I think it's coming out of Mexico, some farms. Yes, it is spreading. It is spreading. Yes, they have not controlled it. Yeah, we used to have a CDC that would try to handle this, but not anymore. So it's dog eat dog out there now. So
Oh my god. Okay, so still don't buy lettuce.
yeah, watch your lettuce. Be careful where you get your lettuce from.
All
All
right.
right, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you. And geez, as I always say, please follow, subscribe, or share. We're on Apple and Spotify and YouTube.
And thank you for listening to episode 28. Or is it
28.
27? Is this 27 or
This
28?
is 28.
28. Okay. All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.